Now, it will be a tough journey even under ordinary circumstances, but an Australian endurance cyclist is riding through war-torn Ukraine to raise money for children and families affected by Russia's invasion. Heath Ryan started his journey in England and is now making his way through western Ukraine towards Kyiv. I caught up with him earlier. Why did you decide to take part in this ride?
Well, a friend of mine in the UK who did endurance cycling with me, Ed, he hosted 3 families, refugee families in the UK over the last 2 years since the war started. And he and I met at Mollymook, just south of Sydney, in January. He was out visiting a family wedding. And we got talking about, it was raining, so we couldn't go to the beach. And we got talking about Ukraine. And I said, I've been following the war and I'd like to give something back or do something to help. And I sort of felt helpless. And he said that he wanted to visit the kids that he'd hosted. So within 5 minutes, we decided to organize a ride to Ukraine, and we called it Ride to Ukraine.
And it's quite a ride too. So take us through the journey. You kicked off in England, right?
Yeah, I started with an Australian photographer in Melbourne, Henry Yates. He put his hand up to help do the social media and the photography. So we flew to Nice and we rode from Nice through France as a bit of a warm-up to England. And then we got to Sheffield, which is where Ed lives. And we then rode about 250 kilometers a day, every day for 12, 15 days to Ukraine. So we said it was Ride to Ukraine, and we didn't know whether we could actually get to Kyiv. So I'll be in Kyiv, the capital, in about 2 days. And Ed was there about 2 days ago. And Henry had to go to Rome for his sister's wedding. So, yeah, it just kind of happened.
And here you are, all of a sudden. So tell us about the charity you're raising money for during this ride.
Yeah, so the 3 of us are ultra endurance cyclists. We've raced across Australia. I've raced across the US with Ed. And people are so kind to us on the road. They give us food, water. They're so hospitable. And watching the Ukraine war, we felt helpless. So we saw it as a chance to give something back or sort of to pay it forward. So we went looking for a charity, and I found 3 Ukrainian charities that were based in Ukraine, and Voices of Children was the only one that dealt with children. And it just ticked all the boxes. So, they deal with children's psychological health and the families, and a lot of it is internally displaced people within Ukraine. And it just seemed so positive. And we thought this will give people in Australia, in the UK, in America, in Canada, and other places a chance to make a small contribution and make the world a little bit of a better place.
And you've seen firsthand some of the work they're doing there on the ground in Ukraine, this charity.
I was there today at one of their centers here in Tuscovitz, and they have an area that kids can come, and they have games and activities. And they have counselors that give counseling for the younger kids and the teenagers. They have active therapy, and they're doing it all right. And some of the kids have parents that are missing. So like the father went to war and they haven't heard for a year whether their father's dead, alive, captive in Russia. So you can imagine the trauma that these kids are under, the trauma. So, yeah, I mean, for us in Australia, it's hard to imagine living in a war zone for 2.5 years. So, yeah, it's just so wonderful to see these people working to help the kids. And
it's wonderful to see the fine work you're doing, Heath, in raising money for this very important cause. We wish you all the best for the rest of your journey. Thank you so much for having a chat to us this morning.
Thank you, Michael.